Kevin Ginsburg, back
All right.
with Legends TV, joined by my co-host Steve Ludwig and distinguished music journalist
man.
Kevin Goins,
Hello.
a semi-regular on the show. There you go.
That's nice. You read it just as Kevin wrote.
That's right. That's right. He told me to say that.
How about that?
That's right. Yeah. So, Steve, tell us about your not one but two radio shows.
Well, I have the Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig, and it's broadcast right here from Madhouse Studios. And you can listen on iTunesUSA.com for that one. iTunesUSA.com. It's Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Tomorrow we have a special 2 Fab Hours. And part of the show is we have cover songs, Beatles cover songs. Did you guys know that actor Joe Pesci had a singing career?
Yes.
In quotes.
Yeah.
As Little Joe. So Little Joe Pesci will be covering a Beatles song as part of tomorrow's
That should be
show.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, to say the least. But
I mean, was he actually any good?
I can see why he went into acting, Kevin.
All right.
Yeah. It was one of those things where he did a one-off album for Brunswick Records back in 1968, and I worked for Brunswick many years ago doing reissues, and I remember when
Wasn't Jackie Wilson on Brunswick?
Jackie Wilson,
Yeah.
the Shy Lights, and Brunswick.
Curtis Mayfield at some point?
No. But one of Curtis's colleagues, the late Carl Davis, was the label's vice president in charge of A&R. But getting back to Joe Pesci, I remember hearing the master tape, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And it actually came out as an actual album called Little Joe Sure Can Sing.
Little Joe sure should act.
Yeah.
No. So Got to Get You Into My Life is a song he's covering.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there are actors who sing, and you're pleasantly surprised, like Kevin Bacon and
The Bacon Brothers, yes.
and Danny Aiello's not bad for that style of music.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's not gonna make you forget Sinatra, but
We also have the very subtle William Shatner covering Lucy in the Sky with
yeah,
Diamonds
that was
tomorrow.
painful.
Oh,
That was
my.
I've heard that.
But yeah, it's on iTunesusa.com at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then if you missed that show, which you shouldn't, but if you missed the initial broadcast, you can always catch it on the archives on planetludwig.com, my website. And that's where my other show, Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture, you can hear that. And this week we're running an interview I did with Tommy James, who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I know he's
Tommy
opening the
James sold 100 million records. How is this guy not in the Rock and Roll Hall of
Yeah,
Fame?
I mean, my gosh, right, Kevin? Go down
Moni
the list.
Moni, I mean, Hanky Panky, Crystal Blue Persuasion,
Dragon
Crimson and
Alive,
Clover.
Crimson and
You know, it's
Clover.
interesting because you mentioned the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, who did a cover of Crimson and
Yeah,
Clover,
a little ridiculous.
and yet they don't induct Tommy.
I happen to like Joan Jett, but how do you not put Tommy James
And
in?
Tommy played during the induction ceremony. I think he played, I guess, Crimson and Clover with Joan Jett.
Probably.
They're gonna. The broadcast is opening tonight with that performance.
With
as a matter of
on
fact,
HBO, yes.
with Tommy James.
My
and
number
Joan Jett.
one Rock and Roll Hall of Fame peeve, the Spinners. How do you not put the Spinners in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? They've had 20 top 10 or maybe even number one singles. Okay, Felipe Wynn may have been one of the top 5 greatest vocalists of all time.
And let's not forget Bobby, who was the lead singer as well, and G.C. Cameron,
Yeah.
who sang Leon, It's a Shame.
I mean, the Spinners, one of the greatest stage acts of all time. I mean, they've been out there 50 plus years. I get angry even talking about it.
Yeah.
How do you not put the Spinners in the Hall of Fame?
Right. Well, my one Rock and Roll Hall of Fame pet peeve is the Marvelettes.
I think the Spinners rank
how-
even higher, but yeah, of
how
course,
can you not
pioneers.
induct the group that gave Motown its very first number one record with "Please, Mr. Postman"?
Okay.
You know,
I know Tommy Mars. One of his pet peeves is that Deep Purple is not in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
Yes is not in the Hall of Fame.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Well, Darryl Hall, when Hall and Oates were put in, said like most of the R&B acts out of Philly never were put in. Any of these great R&B acts.
yeah.
So-
Absolutely. And we talked earlier about the Delphonics. They've been lobbying to get in for a long time.
Yeah, I love the Delphonics.
You know.
I miss those purple capes though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they should, I mean, it's too late now, but maybe they should have called it the Music Hall of Fame.
Well-
Because rock and roll, I think, is too pigeonholed. You know, like R&B, all these people that are in from R&B deserve to be there. But maybe some people don't consider them rock and roll. I don't know.
Right,
Just-
but still, there's also so many rock and roll acts, like you just mentioned, that haven't been considered for the induction. I've maintained for a long time that when Ahmet Ertegun was with us, he kind of was like the conscience of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame board, and when he died, that conscience left with him.
Stay with Jan Wenner, right?
I'm not going to mention any names.
I'll be there in August, and I'm gonna film something for the show here at from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We'll bring that, by the way.
But I also want to chime in that there is a wonderful Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame that is kicked into gear, and they're having an induction. They've had a couple of yearly inductions over the last 2 or 3 years. A man named Lamont Robinson has spearheaded it for quite a long time, and a couple of years back in 2013, I had the honor of presenting songwriter Barrett Strong with his induction award into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame.
All right.
So when we meaning Eliza Niels, and who's a great blues singer songwriter from Detroit, and a group of us held an evening with Barrett Strong tribute 2 years ago to help raise funds for his medical concerns, and we sold out the house.
There you go.
But I presented him with his induction award, and which his response is, "Oh, great! Well, now since I did the song Money, where's my money?" So that's his
That was the
response.
theme of the night.
That was the-
How was he
that-
as a person? I'm sorry.
Wonderful man, wonderful conversation. I interviewed him for my Soulful Conversations radio series, which is on Mixcloud, and he told me the stories behind the songs. You know, I heard it through the grapevine was based on people just talking about one another in the neighborhood. Just My Imagination was based on him meeting his wife. He saw her walk by Hitsville, and he would see her walk back and forth till finally he had the courage to talk to her, and that was the basis of Just My Imagination running away with me. So he told many great stories, and during that evening, which is on YouTube, by the way, the clips, we went into further detail because this was a man who wrote and co-wrote so many greats. I heard it through the grapevine, Ball of Confusion, Papa Was a Rolling Stone. He also wrote Stay in My Corner for the Dells.
Wow.
He wrote Mary Wells' last top 40 pop hit, Use Your Head. It was a great guy. And of course, he was the brains behind the song Money.
Yeah. Beatles covered that song.
Yes.
Speaking of the Beatles
Absolutely.
now. But if we wanted to see
Absolutely.
those clips on YouTube, what do we search? Kevin Goins
Type in An Evening with Barrett Strong, and you'll see the clips come up with the performances, the interviews that we did in between the sets, which was quite interesting. When we talked about the song Cloud 9, which he said the reason why he and Norman wrote it is because there was a lot of stuff happening in '68, and they felt Motown needed to deal with it. And who walks on stage but Kerry Gordy, who was Berry Gordy's son, who basically said, "Look, my dad wasn't a big fan of it, but we knew that we had to reflect the changing times."
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite interesting when he walked on stage, because I freaked out. I'm holding the mic, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be cool. And deep down inside, I'm like, oh my God, where's this going to go?
Yeah.
But
And Red Foo is Berry Gordy's youngest son.
Stefan
is that right?
Gordy, yes, Stefan
Yeah.
Gordy, Red
LMFAO.
Foo of the duo LMFAO. He is Barry's youngest son, and I remember seeing in the book To Be Loved, he was still a little kid, and then, years later, he's towering over his dad. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's him? So,
Kevin, Lewis Johnson of the Brothers Johnson.
Yes.
Of the Brothers Johnson just passed, and we were discussing this earlier. Where does he rate among the great players?
up there,
Yeah.
up there. Up there with the greats, Larry Graham, James Jamerson, Bob
Bootsy.
Babbitt, Bootsy. He was just a monster player. And Ed Eckstein, who worked for Quincy Jones's company at the time, who later ran Mercury Records, he gave them the right name, Thunder Thumbs.
That's right.
Thunder Thumbs was Lewis, and Lightning Licks was his brother George.
Yeah. Great live performance.
Yes.
Tremendous.
Yes.
In fact, they did Strawberry Letter, which Shuggy Otis did originally.
Right.
And I saw Shuggy Otis, and he's not a great showman, but a virtuoso musician.
Absolutely. Well, his dad. Look who's
Johnny Otis.
Look who's Shuggy's dad.
I saw Johnny Otis at Carnegie Hall. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Wow.
The Johnny Otis Review.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
right, yeah.
Well, we were talking about this before the show. You know, seeing the Brothers Johnson open for Shaka Khan at Tramps.
Tramps was such a great club.
Tramps was on 23rd Street in Manhattan, or 22nd Street in Manhattan.
Know what's the greatest thing I ever saw at Tramps? Big J McNeely.
Really?
Big J McNeely walked out of Tramps playing the saxophone into the restaurant next door, which was not part of Tramps. Everybody in the restaurant was like, what's going on? Back into the street, back into Tramps. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Big J McNeely.
Well,
That's a relatively obscure name, right?
Well, Big J, legendary
Yeah.
saxman from the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah.
One of the blueprints of rock and roll and R&B. Absolutely. But we were talking about getting back to the Brothers Johnson. I remember that night. It was New Year's Eve, 94, 95, and they went on stage, and it was a sub-zero, freezing cold night, and the steam on the windows was so thick because it was so crowded, and they went through everything. I mean,
He's like a poet. He
They went
remembers
through
the steam
everything.
on the windows from 25 years ago.
It was just like you couldn't see outside, you
Yeah.
couldn't see in. It didn't matter because on stage they were monsters. And
Oh,
here's Lewis going through all the bass lines of all the songs he cut outside of the Brothers Johnson, like Billie Jean, Want to Be Starting Something, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. All these songs he played bass lines for, and what did George respond with? He played Hendrix's version of the Star Spangled Banner. That was his comeback. Because it's like here's Lewis going through all this repertoire. What is George gonna do? It was all in good fun.
They were great live performers.
Fantastic.
And I hope George continues.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
And B.B. King, of course, just passed. Where do you rate him among the immortals?
He's an immortal. Just simple as that. He's an immortal.
You ever see Soul Power with B.B. King and James Brown and Bill Withers? What a great movie.
Great movie, yeah. Great.
And Felipe Wynn from the Spinners. That was my favorite. I love Felipe. Yeah.
Right. Well, I was telling someone that my introduction to BB was through my mom, because she had remember she bought his album called Indianola, Mississippi Seeds, and if you've seen the cover, it's a guitar made out of a body of a watermelon, plugged into an amp on the front cover, and on the back cover you see the watermelon completely just demolished along with the strings. Controversial cover, but it grabbed everyone's attention, and BB considered this album to be one of his best that he's done. And if you see the lineup that he had playing with him, it was almost as if these folks volunteered. You had Leon Russell from the Shelter, great keyboardist. You had two great keyboardists, Leon Russell and Carole King, on the record. It's just a fantastic album.
Leon Russell was part of that whole Wrecking Crew.
Yes.
And he played on a lot of Gary Lewis and Playboy. So many of these guys, right, Kevin and Evan? I mean, they played on so many records.
Right.
That they have such a rich background.
And there is a great film documentary on the Wrecking Crew that's out there. It's a fantastic movie. I got a chance to see it, and it tells you the whole story about Los Angeles, the studio scene, and all these great musicians who played on practically almost 90% of what came out of L.A. 90-95%. Whether it was the Beach Boys, the Fifth Dimension,
Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. They
I'm going to butcher Larry's last name, Nectel.
Right.
Larry Nectel. And Larry Nectel was even credited on the 45, Bridge Over Troubled Water. It says, you see on the Columbia label, Simon and Garfunkel, piano, Larry Nectel. I'm like, which was so cool because you rarely saw a studio musician credited on a single. Album, yes. Single, very rare. But the Wrecking Crew was just a great lineup of people. Glenn Campbell was part of it. Tommy Tedesco, Hal Blaine, the drummer.
I interviewed
Ray
Denny,
Coleman.
I'm sorry, Ed Denny Tedesco, his son, who put together
Yes!
the documentary. He was
Yes.
on my radio show, and he said he never realized like how great his daddy was. He said to my daddy when he was growing up, dad just went to work and came home.
It was he saw his dad go to work.
Yeah.
Little did he realize,
I just had a conversation with Brian Solomon, the wrestling journalist who's going to be out later, and we were talking about how sometimes young people, if it's going back 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, like we're talking today, and they never heard of the person, it's like, oh, that's old, it doesn't mean anything. Well, what do you think of that attitude? Oh, that's my parents' music. That's corny.
I don't criticize, I don't criticize folks that I can't understand. I know I'm sounding like a Bob Dylan record, but
Well, I can.
but my thing
Yes.
my thing is, Evan, is this: sooner or later they'll learn and they'll find out on their own.
And let me flip that
You
for
know.
the morons who are our age or older who go, there's been no good music since the Beatles, there's been no good music since
Evan,
the 60s
Evan.
or 70s
Yeah,
or 80s.
And
Evan,
I mean, don't you hate that?
Evan, you are not. Evan and I'm sure you've been part of this. We've talked about this off and on for how long?
Yeah.
Like months. I mean, that's why I started New Grooves Radio. It was really out of our conversations because you posted out on social media. I am tired of hearing folks complain, and I understand why they complain because to a degree, because there are some folks who hang on to what they love and what they remember, and that's great. But that does not mean that there isn't stuff that is almost as good out there. But at the same time, if they're not introduced to it, they're going to dismiss it.
The other thing is we have tremendous indie musicians, and that's part of what we do here, a big part,
Right.
who we showcase. And, it's an insult to them when you say there's been nothing good in 30, 40, 50 years. Come on.
Right, but then again, at the same time, I feel it's almost our job as aficionados, journalists, whatever, to let folks know, hey, here's what's out there. And what I always remind folks, without being on a high horse, I try, is that a lot of the great music that we've grown to know over the past, let's say, 60 years came from the world of the independents.
Sure.
Came from that independent world. I always remind folks, Motown, Atlantic, A&M, Stax, those were all independent labels. Gamble Records, before it became Philadelphia International, was an independent label. The labels that came out of the South, labels that came out of Chicago, VJ, Mercury was an independent. Right. These were all independent labels, and that's where the bulk of a lot of the great music that they grew to love came from. And that world still exists. It's just different names, different labels, different musicians, but the vibe is still the same. And also, a lot of that style of music is still in existence. And that's why I went after that one conversation where you just went ballistic at me.
Yeah.
In your nice way.
Yeah.
I went and
You're
said,
much calmer and nicer than I am.
I just said, you know what? That's why I started New Grooves Radio, and I'm actually getting ready the third edition of that show it'll be posted on the Mixcloud channel. And so, like I said in the last show, the feedback I got from folks were like, wow, didn't know this existed. Right. Oh, as far as the music's concerned.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a brief commercial timeout, and when we come back, we're going to hear some great artists that Kevin has championed. We're going to see some video footage, some live performance footage. We will be right back after this very brief timeout.
Gotta get one little taste. You're velvet, I want that sugar sweet. Don't let nobody touch it unless that somebody's me. I gotta be a man, there ain't no other way. Cause girl, you're hotter than a Southern California day. I don't wanna play no games, you don't gotta be afraid. Don't give me all that shy shit, no makeup on, that's my sugar. Yes, please, won't you come and put it down on me? I'm right here, cause I need a love and let us set my feet. Yeah, you show me good loving, make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life. Show me good loving, make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life.
For nearly a decade, Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio has featured interviews with the greatest names in the arts and sports. Heard worldwide at legendsradio.net, the program has featured these great musical legends: Ray Manzarek of The Doors, Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins, Judy Collins, Roberta Flack, and many more. Stars from movies, TV, and comedy have included Jenny McCarthy, Wayne Brady, 30 Rock's Judah Friedlander, Shelley Berman, Jackie the Joke Man Martling, David Allen Greer, and Paul Mooney. Stars of pro wrestling and MMA include Bruno Sammartino, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Superstar Billy Graham, and Frank Shamrock. Co-hosted by renowned journalist Dr. Mike Lano, Legends Radio is heard Wednesdays 7 p.m. to 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard. We are archived 24/7 with hundreds of hours of classic interviews. Legends Radio also features the best in indie music, showcasing talent deserving wider exposure.
I'm from Brooklyn, baby. Don't forget the gravy.
We are soldiers.
You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio.
Come on,
are back with Kevin Goins, and Kevin not only is a journalist, but he represents some great artists. And set up the first clip for us.
Well, the first clip, she was here earlier this month, right over here on this stage. Raj Dalari.
And you can check it out at legendstvnyc.com, the archives. Yeah.
There you go, in the Evan Ginsberg archives.
There you go.
This is another clip from the behind the scenes of the making of her album Journey of a Woman, and this song in particular was written as a dedication to a movement in Chicago which has been on for decades called the Steppers.
Okay.
And it's I call it ballroom dancing in a soulful way. Yeah,
Right.
And she wrote a song for that called Dance With Me. It's a great clip.
Okay, enjoy, folks.
Here we go. Saw him from across the room. When he walked in the door, all the ladies stopped and stared as he crossed the floor. His walk was mean, had a real cool stride. Even I did a double take as he passed me by. Wonder what it's gonna take to have him come my way. Should I just be bold or let him make his play? The set is almost over and I don't have the time to waste. I think I better walk on over, but I don't even know his name. Could I, should I? I don't even know his name. What if he doesn't ask me? That would be a doggone shame. Next time he comes my way, I'll just get the nerve to say, hey, dance with me, baby. Dance with me, baby. He smiled and put his hand in mine, pulled me onto the floor, dipped me way down low. I forgot where I was, lost all my track of time. By the end of the song, I was calling him mine. He grabbed my waist, whispered something in my ear. He said, baby, you smell so good. He knew just what I wanted to hear. He spun me out and in, turned me around and around, laid his hand on my shoulder, dipped me down to the ground. I felt so heavy, I had to catch my breath, try to hide my emotion as I matched him step by step. By the time it was over, he was nowhere to be found. I had to find my stranger, but I didn't even know his name. Would I, could I, should I? I didn't even know his name. What if he doesn't? Ooh, now that would be a doggone shame. Next time he comes my way, I'll just get the nerve to say, hey, dance with me, baby. Dance with me, baby. Oh, dance with me, baby. Dance with me, baby. Oh, dance with me, baby. Dance with me. Here we go, last time. 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom. Yeah. One more time. Let's see how that sounded.
All right. So, Kevin, we always
Yes,
have
sir.
the discussion that the music industry is very youth-oriented to the point where it's ageism how does somebody as great as Roger Laurie make it in a business that's set up to work against you?
Well, what I've said to Raj, and we've had discussions about this, Evan and Steve, we've had discussions about this. And basically, we're going after what I call the grown folks audience. We're not, I mean, if younger folks, if the millennials love it, beautiful. They're more beautiful. Welcome to the party. But we know the audience that would react and buy her record, and that is that older audience, the grown folks. The folks who are in their, I will say, their early to mid 30s to their 40s or 50s, who still have the income outside of paying their bills and the rent to either buy downloads or go to a CD store or go on a line and order the CD, or better, or just as good if not better, go see her perform live. That's the audience that we're aiming at.
There you go. There are great, relatively young artists today. We were talking about Raheem DeVaughn.
Yes.
Who are totally independent and
Absolutely.
make a decent living, and it is possible to make it in this business, but it's much harder than if you're a kid.
You have to really be diverse as far as not so much musically, but just having other ways of making money with your music.
I like Rasan Patterson very much.
Yes, we opened for Rasan Patterson.
Oh, there you go.
We opened for, actually Raj Dalari opened for him at BB King's a couple months ago. And she did a completely acoustic set to balance his band, what he did with his band, and it was a great night of music.
I'm sorry I missed that one. Next time. I'm there next time.
Next time.
I love both those artists.
Thank you.
The demographics too that Kevin was talking about, they're the ones that fill the concert halls too.
Right.
So there is certainly a market.
Actually, 4 of the top 10 summer tours this summer are older acts. Okay, I'm talking like the Rolling Stones. I'm talking old acts.
The Who,
Yeah.
I guess, is in there.
The Who was towards the bottom. They're not on the level of the Stones, but these, because the ticket prices are so expensive that the older people can afford it and the kids can't.
Yeah. So I'm saying there's certainly an audience for Raj Dalari and the others.
there's an audience. There are venues
Like Avery Sunshine. I love Avery Sunshine.
Yes.
Raj should hook into the Avery Sunshine market.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and folks like Avery Sunshine and other artists, we've kind of our ships have passed, through the wonderful world of social media and going to gigs. When Raj Dalari was in England last year, she met with a man named Bluey, Jean-Paul Bluey Manouk, who was the leader of the band Incognito, and they've put out so much great material over the last 20 to 25 years, and to me, he's carrying on the tradition of your big soul funk bands, like your Earth, Wind and Fire, your Rufus and Shaka, your Ohio Players,
Which cost a fortune on the road
Which
because
cost-
you have so many guys on stage.
Yes, but you know what? When Incognito played BB King's about a month ago, both nights sold out.
There you go.
Both nights were packed. I mean, me and Randall Grass, who was the head of Shawnee King Entertainment, who they were signed to that label, we were like sardines in BB King's because it was packed.
Great music, properly promoted, will
Right.
find an audience. Speaking of great music, set up the next clip.
Next clip is a band out of Rochester, New York, my hometown, and it's a group called Anonymous Willpower. They are led by a husband and wife duo, Don and Susie Blair, and they were in many bands. They came out of a group called Velveteen Fox up in Rochester, and Don and Susie decided to go into more of a soul, funk, rock bag. I kind of call her, and I know Tommy, who's off camera, he's probably going to wake up. I kind of call Susie the long lost daughter of Lydia Pence, who was the lead singer of Cold Blood back in the '60s and '70s. But this was from a live gig, so I always say, no, never mind the audio quality. It's kind of there.
But it's TV.
It's TV.
The audio quality counts.
There you go. But
Anyway.
this was from they're getting ready to release a new album called their second called One More Medicine Show. It'll be we're in the process of getting it mastered. It's a great romp through. Like I said, you got your combination of groups like Cold Blood meeting Steely Dan meeting. A little bit.
All right,
of
well, why don't we
Rufus.
hear it? It's
But
better to hear it.
Better than
check
hearing
it out.
me ramble.
All right, check it out, folks.
There you go.
Barbecue, it's Friday night. How's everybody doing? Nice. Please welcome to the stage Anonymous Willpower.
I am the star of my show. Oh, there's no plan for ready to go. Don't get this party started. It's just a flick of my wrist, so you know that I'm the star of my own freak show. All revved up and ready to go. Gonna get this party started. It's my pillow, this ugly disco. Said I'm a cute roller coaster ride without sea restraints. And I'm giving away this is between the sheets. Said I'm a star of my own freak show. Getting funky with your feet on the floor. Gonna rip this body up now, right now. Come on, get your business on the floor. I'm a really good girl. Twined in barbed wire. The first line of my book said, get ready for a ride. I'm a pure roller coaster ride without serious rain. And give away this lady between the sheets. Said I'm the star of my own freak show. Getting funky now, ready to roll. Gonna get that collar started. Like you know this funky disco. I'm a really good girl. Twine with my wire. You know, baby, that we have a little private show. Yeah. Listen up. Listen up now. My name is Susie Willpower. I'm here to rock you off this planet. Yeah. My name is what? Susie Willpower. Say it. We're in a band calling on the Miss Willpower. We admit I rock you off the planet now. Yes, yeah. On a Miss Willpower. Yeah, to rock you off this planet now. On guitar, I have Bob Olsen.
to this man, but I expect everybody to have a drink in their hand at that moment in time. Because I know I'll be drinking some serious whiskey. I got John Anonymous on the keys. He's my hot husband, can't you see? Keep going, I'll get this, I'll get that, wait, I'll take my dress. Harry Robbins on the bass, when John Bates, when Harry Robbins on the bass, John Bates, and Harry Robbins on the bass, and John Bates, we are together, exchange. First time my footsteps, get ready for wild time. Thank you. I got this dress at Hot Rod Betty's. Thank you very much. Hair done by Miss Jenny Marks. Pink Flamingo Salon. You should go there. It's pretty sweet.
Proving that there has been great music in the past 30, 40, 50 years. We just saw it. Guys, plug whatever you want to plug. Steve? Go ahead.
Thanks. Just planetludwig.com and itunesusa.com for the Beatles show tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
All right, Kevin?
Okay, Soulful Conversations, New Grooves Radio, and In the Grooves, and my new show, Your MBA, Your Music Business Advisor, will all available through Mixcloud.com. Just type in the name Music Man Kevin, and you'll see it all come up. Raj Jalari's album, Journey of Woman, available through all digital outlets. And the Anonymous Willpower's One More Medicine show will be out by the fall of this year.
All right.
And Evan, don't forget your book.
Apartment
Yes.
4B, like in Brooklyn, about the turbulent East Flatbush of the 60s and 70s. And Steve's lighthearted look at his open heart surgery, CU and CCU, and more books, Pro Wrestling, FAQ with Brian Solomon. We will be right back and talk wrestling. Don't you dare go anywhere.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This is me, DMC, in the place to be, the greatest MC in history. There will never be an MC greater than me. And right about now, the only place for you to be is with your one and only Madhouse TV.
You are the man.
For nearly a decade, Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio has featured interviews with the greatest names in the arts and sports. Heard worldwide at legendsradio.net, the program has featured these great musical legends: Ray Manzarek of The Doors, Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins, Judy Collins, Roberta Flack, and many more. Stars from movies, TV, and comedy have included Jenny McCarthy, Wayne Brady, 30 Rock's Judah Friedlander, Shelley Berman, Jackie the Joke Man Martling, David Allen Greer, and Paul Mooney. Stars of pro wrestling and MMA include Bruno Sammartino, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Superstar Billy Graham, and Frank Shamrock. Co-hosted by renowned journalist Dr. Mike Lano, Legends Radio is heard Wednesdays 7 p.m. to 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard. We are archived 24/7 with hundreds of hours of classic interviews. Legends Radio also features the best in indie music, showcasing talent deserving wider exposure.
I'm from Brooklyn, baby. Don't forget the gravy.
We are soldiers.
You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginsberg's Legends Radio.
After all the candles are blown out, after the last toast of the night, Cambridge paving stones with ArmorTech stand the test of time. Beautifully designed, built to last. Only Cambridge paving stones have ArmorTech, our unique process that produces a rich, distinctive color. Create your own memories with Cambridge paving stones. Visit CambridgePavers.com.
Cambridge paving stones with ArmorTech will always look like new.
We are back with Legends TV for our
Yes.
wrestling segment with our returning champion, Brian Solomon, author
Thank
of
you.
Pro Wrestling FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask all the stupid wrestling questions, like, is
What
it
else?
real? You know,
Oh, no, not that one.
Oh, not that one.
As Bill Apter said, is wrestling fixed? I didn't know it was broken.
That's right.
So,
You know what? How the wrestlers always answer that question? They go, "My divorces were real. My injured back is real. My bad neck is real." Right?
hopefully they don't answer the question the way that Dr. D did to John Stossel on 2020.
That's right.
Right?
That's
That
right.
wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Smacked him right in the head and said, "Was that fake?" I don't do that when people ask me if wrestling is real.
Okay. Okay. gravity is real. Let's leave it at that. When you throw a 300-pound guy around,
But-
it's going to hurt.
That question, though, that doesn't really get asked too much anymore these days because they're so open about it. You know, they don't really even try to. Kayfabe is a thing of the past. I mean, within the show, they might try to keep up suspension of disbelief, but you know, you used to see Randy Savage go on talk shows and he would be in character as Randy Savage.
Right.
Wrestlers don't do that anymore. So
Even here, the indie wrestlers, they always ask me, "Am I in character?" I go, "No, just do it straight. It's a talk show. We're not gonna. It's not a wrestling show."
yeah, it's a lingering thing, but it's an open secret now. As I describe it in the book, it's kind of an open secret. No one's really in the dark on it.
And tell us about the book. It's a healthy sized book. There's a lot to read. Going back 100 years or so. Tell us
150.
150. My math was never good, Brian.
The book is
Yeah.
the book's almost 2 pounds. So that's kind of what everybody remarks is how heavy and thick it is.
And you could use it for a workout program
Sure.
after you read it. So.
Or maybe a foreign object. We were just talking before. Run into any wrestler wants to use it to give me some extra publicity.
Or if Steve's phone ever rings again in the middle of the show, I could just throw it at him because it's sizable.
And it's finally out now. The last 2 times I was here, it was not yet out in stores, and now it is.
So tell us about
excited about that. Well, it's the ultimate single-volume wrestling reference book. And without putting myself over too much, but I really do believe that this book is the ultimate wrestling reference book. It's not a memoir. It's not a biography. It's your one-stop volume for anything you ever wanted to know about wrestling but was afraid to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back, in terms of history, it goes back to the Civil War, right up to the present day.
Abe Lincoln was a wrestler, wasn't he?
He was. He wasn't a professional, as they would always try to say, that they would somehow try to give you this image in your head of Abe Lincoln with pointy shoes and a cape. And
Did he wear a
jumping in the
mask?
ring.
No.
I don't know.
That's a stupid-ass question. Wow. Yeah.
He did wrestle, though, yeah.
Back in Civil War times, was wrestling real?
Well, this is the mystery, and no one really knows. During the Civil War is when it first started becoming popular as kind of like a pastime among Americans, the same way that baseball came out of the Civil War. And I think in the real early days, it was probably legit because, unfortunately, we know this because people were being killed, people were having their bones broken and all kinds of things. So there's no way that that's a setup.
Killed is pretty real.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a work, right? But the fix starts to come in pretty early once there's money to be made. That's the thing. And I think what we forget is a lot of sports were a lot more crooked in general. There was a lot more room for fixing and gambling and the mob. And it just so happened that other sports kind of went on a different path, and wrestling just embraced the fix until it got to the point where you wouldn't even call it a fixed sport anymore. It's now officially a show.
And what are some of the highlights that we could look for in here?
Oh boy, well, everybody always likes to immediately skip to the chapter on the controversies and the scandals, and I guess that's human nature, but I do have a section on that. I didn't want to make the whole book just about wallowing in the negative aspects, but there is a chapter where I get into all the kind of the well-known scandals, Bruiser Brody and things like that.
I once saw Jose Gonzalez wrestle Bruiser Brody at the Nassau Coliseum.
Really?
Yeah, for real, yeah.
That obviously...
Which was just a meaningless prelim at the time. You would never imagine
Yeah.
how their paths would ultimately...
Well, he was used a lot as enhancement talent by Vince, Jose Gonzalez, before.
He got like a mid-level push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Gonzalez and DiNucci wrestle the Executioners at the Garden. It was a damn good match.
Was that one of those where they would say that, folks, this could be a main event in any arena in the country?
I guess so.
And sometimes you sit there and go, really?
Since you mentioned that, I see a lot of nostalgia pages on Facebook and social media for pro wrestling. And do we look at wrestling from, let's say, 30, 40 years ago with a nostalgic haze? Because some of those matches were really not that good.
Well, that's the one thing, you guys talk about nostalgia with music and people not wanting to accept that there's good new music. It's the same thing with everything. And I'll agree. I mean, if you go back and watch particularly WWF, they were not really known for what they call the really great work rate guys. I mean, it was a lot of brawling, a lot of punching and kicking. And when you watch the old stuff like Championship Wrestling or All-Star Wrestling, it can be kind of dull, you know. But if you're watching, say, Dory Funk Jr. versus Jack Briscoe,
That's high art.
from 1975, you could watch them go for an hour, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch. So
When Backlund came in, they tended to put him with guys like Greg Valentine and Morocco, guys who could really work. He wasn't as good against the big punching and kicking guys. The WWF was built on guys like Pedro and Bruno facing these big monster heels because, it was almost like they were the underdogs even though they were the champions.
Well, the whole WWF booking mentality really was, and I get into it in the book, it was spectacle. Their promotion was one of the more spectacle-oriented types of wrestling promotions where they were interested in, even from the beginning, in characters, larger than life. Mm-hmm. They didn't care so much about the technical aspects. Like, a lot of guys back then would feel like if you got booked in the WWF territory, you were getting a break because you didn't have to work as hard in the ring, you can do broader stuff, and you got paid better. So who would want to do that? You got to work Madison Square Garden in front of 15, 16, 17,000 people, and you didn't have to put in the kind of work you'd have to put in at the Kiel Auditorium or at the Omni in Atlanta, where people really expected you to just work your butt off for 45 minutes. So they were always more about the cartoon, larger-than-life type of aspect of wrestling. It just really became even more exaggerated as time went on.
And don't be offended by this, but wrestling fans are not perceived as great readers. To put out a book of this size and quality and the time and effort and sweat and blood, I mean, is there a financial payoff for that level of work?
I will tell you right now that Amazon.com has twice sold through their stock on this book. They had to reorder twice so far. Now, I don't know if they only ordered 5 copies. I don't know.
Okay.
But I know they went through the stock twice. The conventional wisdom always was wrestling fans don't read. So why bother publishing books? But I think that's been disproven over the last 15 years. I mean, I'm not going to say that there aren't some fans that fit the stereotype of wrestling fans, but for the most part, I've met some very intelligent, well-read people, present company included, that happen to be really big wrestling fans. I was just at a trade show yesterday called Book Expo America in New York. It's the biggest book trade show in the country. And I had a line of people industry people, coming to talk to me about wrestling and wanting me to sign the book and talk to me about, how they were a kid. And everybody wants to talk about how they watched it when they were a kid. And I grew up in St. Louis. I grew up in California. I grew up in England. And, so there's way, way, way beyond the stereotype as far as these people go.
You know what else I found? I was really, really impressed with all the pictures you have in the book. You're talking about people that mightn't like to read. But the pictures, oh my gosh, they're tremendous pictures in that book. And beautiful color pictures as well, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, thank you. I was relieved to find out that the book was going to be in color, because I think originally they had told me it would be black and white. And I have nothing against, some of the pictures are naturally black and white, but there were some gorgeous pictures in there, and I had to actually work harder to get the pictures together than to even write the book. Just like trying to pull strings and reach out to people like Pro Wrestling Illustrated or universities that have these archives, who knew, of wrestling photography and documents and things, just to try to put together, 100 years worth of amazing wrestling photography, and I think I did it.
I wouldn't want you to mention the price, but I would imagine it's not cheap getting some of those pictures that are copyrighted.
No, and that was the problem, is that they gave me a limited budget to produce photos for the book, and it's about 85 pictures in there. Wow. And I knew right away I would have to really get creative with the budget that they gave me. So some of it is stuff from my own collection, old program covers, which you're not going to find anywhere else. Pictures from matches from 70, 80 years ago, which you're not going to find anywhere else. Like I said, PWI helped me out. University of Notre Dame has an archive of wrestling photography that's free to use. So I had to do a little bit of acrobatics, but I made it work.
How long did it take for you to write the book?
It took about 6 months, and that includes the writing and the research together. That doesn't include proofreading, doing the index, which was a lot of fun to do. I'm saying that sarcastically, but it took me about 6 months, I would say, overall to do.
Wow, that's quick. I would think, with
It
a,
is.
with a volume that size.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is where being a blowhard and wrestling know-it-all comes in handy, because I didn't have to start from scratch of just knowing nothing and having to. I had tons of random, useless facts in my head, and all I had to do for a lot of it was just confirm it, and so it let me know like what paths to go down, who to talk to. I didn't have to just start from a blank slate. So I really think that accelerated the process of the book big time.
Well, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, here's a frequently asked question. What's an intelligent fellow like you doing involved with pro wrestling? Don't you hate when people say that to you?
I do, because I don't know if they're expecting like me to have my knuckles dragging on the ground and drooling or whatever, but you know, I grew up around my uncle, my great uncle, who was in musical theater. He was an opera singer, well-read gentleman. He was an artist.
And you're an educator, and
yeah.
Steve's a former teacher.
But my Uncle Pete, he watched wrestling religiously every week. And he would talk to me about Baron Mikkel Cicluna and all of his favorite guys. And again, that's the model I got, that you could be an intelligent person, you could be a cultured person, and happen to love professional wrestling for the theatrical thing that it is.
But what about you, Evan, associate producer of The Wrestler? Your life is, a lot of your life is wrestling.
For better and for worse.
I don't know how to call you
Yeah.
intelligent, but I mean you can read.
I'm semi-intelligent. Look, I was watching New Japan Pro Wrestling last night on Axis, the TV channel, and that's presented as a sport. It actually says King of Sports, like we used to hear back in the day, where you have great athletes in tremendous feats of strength and skill, and it's like anything else. There's great R&B and there's crap. There's great anything. There's great wrestling and there's garbage, and it's how you present something. It's always the case with any art form.
Yeah, I've had people come up to me even since I've published this book, because I'm a high school English teacher now, and I'll have people, my colleagues or students or whatever, that never really gave much thought to wrestling at all as a thing, and will come up to me and just, I'm looking at your book and I had no idea there was so much to this. I just thought it was just guys screaming in their underwear and just rolling around.
Well, that's why Steve likes it, the underwear.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah.
It depends, especially different brands can get me going more about it.
The suspenders are always good look in wrestling.
Well, what's great to hear is that you're going through your second sell-through on Amazon, and this is a book.
Yeah.
It's not an e-book; it's an actual book. You have to turn pages and whatnot. It's great. And that's great to see. Is it going to be available as an e-book, or are you going to strictly keep it in paper form for now?
Well, I've been told that there's going to be an ebook version. There isn't one yet, and I know a lot of people. I'm still kind of getting on board with the whole ebook thing. I prefer a physical book myself,
Me too.
but it opens up the door to a lot of people, especially
Yes.
nowadays, that will be more likely to buy your book if they can download it. And so
Yes.
people have said that to me. Hey, I really want to read your book. When's it going to be electronic? It's coming. There will be an electronic version, not yet, but it is going to be available. I would just say keep checking on Amazon for that.
Okay.
It will be.
Here's a question that I always get from fans. What was the greatest, or 3 or 4 or 5 greatest matches you ever saw live?
I ask that question a lot too to people.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. The greatest match I ever saw live. Wow. I'm kind of tempted to say the one that pops into my head is I was at WrestleMania 10 in Madison Square Garden, and I saw Bret Hart versus Owen Hart.
Oh, okay.
And that might be up there, and that's just randomly popping into my head. I mean, watching those two guys, and I think Owen won the match.
I was just out the other week with Bruce Hart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He was at the Wrestling Hall of Fame inductions in New York.
Yeah, I was with him the day before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think that match would be the one I'd probably pick.
All right. And I'm going to shift gears completely here. Your daughter is about to make her TV debut in just a few minutes. As a father, how does that feel?
Well, I'm trying not to be the stage dad, and be like the overbearing, like, don't do it like that. No, oh, that's good. But I'm very excited. I'm very proud of her. And I've watched her blossom as a singer from the beginning, 2-3 years old, and now she's really doing it. And I couldn't be more proud of her.
Now, let me take this another step, because it is show business. and Kevin is involved with the music business on many different levels. As a father, would you be able to listen to constructive criticism, advice, or is it just, tell me how wonderful somebody is?
Well, like I said, no overbearing stage dad here. I'm very rational when it comes to that. I want her to do well and to enjoy, whether it's a career or just an enjoyable pursuit throughout her life, whatever she wants to do with it. So, of course, I want her to be the best she can be. I'm not going to be,
So you would be open to advice, constructive criticism?
Yeah, as long as it's constructive and professional, which, of course, I know it would be, absolutely.
Interesting. And we were talking off camera about ageism in the music industry. Your daughter happens to be the perfect age to make it in this industry. And would you want to see her, climb to the top of what can be a vicious and brutal business?
Well, I would feel very protective at that point. I mean, I have. That's one thing that I don't have any experience with, that whole world,
Well, the wrestling world, it's brutal. Yeah. Just being on the road and not having that stability, it's tough.
Exactly. That's why, sometimes I think that it might be, you have to really, really have it in your soul if it's something that you do as a career. And sometimes being the protective dad that I am, I think, maybe this is something that is a great skill and a talent that you have and you keep as a skill in your back pocket, but you can do other things so that I can protect you from this industry that might do things
well,
to you.
I would tell any athlete or any performer in any industry to have a plan B because, in the vast majority of cases, there's this small window of opportunity. You read about a football player that's making crazy money, and 3 years later they blow out their knee or whatever, and it's over and done. So, right, Kevin, you always have to know the business side.
Well, exactly, and and I guess, and I'll say this: it's great to be the protective dad or the protective mom because, if anything, you want to see your child succeed. You want to see them win, and at the same time, there's a lot of information about the business of music that is so easy to access through the internet, through libraries, through music schools, that, actually particularly in the last maybe 20 years since high-speed internet became the norm, where you can access this information. And I did an interview with a gentleman named Kendall Minter, who wrote a book about the current recording contracts that are being used called the 360s. A whole other conversation there. But he said this in our interview. He said, knowledge is power. And when you have the knowledge and you have the information at your disposal, incorporate it into what you're doing. And when an artist does it, and when an artist's parent does that, or a manager, then all the artist can do is just win from there.
All right. That's good to know. Thank you.
There you go.
Welcome.
Author, educator, and protective dad. Yeah.
All three. Triple threat.
Plug your book.
Okay. Well, Amazon.com, it's now fully available. It's Pro Wrestling FAQ. And I would advise people that want to keep up with where I'm appearing to go to the Pro Wrestling FAQ page on Facebook, because I'm going to be on a bunch of podcasts soon, including Jim Ross's Ross Report. He's having me on, so I'm very excited about that. But Pro Wrestling FAQ on Facebook, and also B_SOL on Twitter. I'm usually really good about plugging everything on there, so those are the best places to go.
Okay, and yours truly will be at the FTW Wrestling Show today, 3 o'clock at La Boom, 56-15 Northern Boulevard, and I'll be with Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And tomorrow we will be at the luxurious Ronkonkoma Fire Department at 4 o'clock, 177 Portion Road in Ronkonkoma. Yours truly with Jimmy Snuka. Come by and say hello. Sabu on the card, and our friend Melissa Coates. And next Saturday, our good friend, he's been on the show a million times, Alpha Halverson, will be having a open jam session. This is 9 p.m., and come on down. The club is Patty's Tavern, 4207 162nd Street in Flushing, Queens. The great Alpha Halverson, and he's done some beautiful work with Tommy Ma. And come on down, jam sessions, old school. We love jam sessions, right? So don't go anywhere, folks. The TV debut of Layla Solomon when we come back.
Stop the truck! Stop the truck! Thank you.
Baby, I'm broken down. I need your loving, I need it now. When I'm without you, I'm something weak. You got me begging, I'm on my knees. I don't wanna be needing your love, I just wanna be deep in your love, and it's killing me when you're away. Oh baby, 'cause I really don't care where you are, I just wanna be there where you are, and I gotta get one little taste. Sugar, yes please, won't you come and put it down on me? I'm right here, 'cause I need a little somebody. Yeah, you show me good loving, make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life. Sugar, yes please, won't you come and put it down on me? My broken pieces, you pick 'em up. Don't leave me hanging, come give me some. When I'm without you, so insecure. You are the one thing I'm looking for. I want that red velvet, I want that sugar sweet. Don't let nobody touch it unless that somebody's me. I gotta be a man, there ain't no other way. 'Cause girl, you're hotter than a Southern California day. I don't wanna play no games, you don't gotta be afraid. Don't give me all that shy shit, no makeup on, that's my sugar. Yes please, won't you come and put it down on me? I'm right here, 'cause I need a love, a little somebody. Yeah, you show me good loving, make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life. You show me good loving, make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life. Sugar, yes please, won't you come and put it down on me? My broken pieces, you pick 'em up. Don't leave me hanging, come give me some. When I'm without you, so insecure. You are the one thing I'm looking for.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This is me, GMC, in the place to be, the greatest MC in history. There will never be an MC greater than me. And right about now, the only place for you to be is with your one and only Madhouse TV.
You are the man.
We're back, everybody, and I am very happy to be sharing the stage right now with Layla Solomon. She's going to make her singing debut on TV in a few minutes, but I'd like to ask her a few questions first. Layla, how old are you?
I'm 13.
13, and how long have you been singing?
Since I was about 4.
4 years old. And how did you just hear music around the house? Why did you start singing so young?
Well, my dad's really into music. He plays different kinds of music, different varieties. I had a little Hannah Montana guitar. It was pink and purple. And I used to sing for everyone, all my relatives at the house and stuff.
And I understand that you've been involved with some musical theater as well. Why don't you tell us about that?
I've been in a Shakespeare play. I'm in the Fairfield, Connecticut Children's Choir. I just got into Legally Blonde the musical, and I've been in Hairspray the musical.
Wow. And what part did you have in Legally Blonde?
Well, I just got an ensemble role.
Mm-hmm. And you must love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that Shakespeare was musical, by the way, everybody. I know it's not musical Shakespeare, but where do you go to school?
I go to Tomlinson Middle School in Fairfield, Connecticut.
And you're involved with chorus there and things?
Yeah, I'm in the chorus, and I'm in their Broadway pop choir.
Now, let's look, say 10 years from now. Where do you see yourself musically? You think you can pursue this as a profession?
I don't know. Maybe just like a thing on the side after work or something.
Mm-hmm. What's great about it is that you have many doors, right? You're young enough that there's many things you'll find out while you're in high school. Now, before we get started, I understand you've been chewing your nails.
Yeah.
Your dad told you a few times, stop biting your nails. So you're all set?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So we are very happy to present to you, first time on television, the very wonderful Layla Solomon.
Thank you. For the long way round, 2 bottle whiskey for the way, and I sure would like some sweet company. And I'm leaving tomorrow. What do you say? When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk. You're gonna miss me by my talk. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. When I'm gone. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my hair. You're gonna miss me everywhere. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. I've got my ticket for the long way round, the one with the prettiest of views. It's got mountains, it's got rivers, it's got sights to give you shivers, and it sure would be prettier with you. When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my hair, you're gonna miss me everywhere. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk, you're gonna miss me by my talk. Oh, you're gonna falling all over town. Make sure that your umbrella is upside down. Trading for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Make sure that your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunflowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't